Welcome back to the deep dive. I think most of us have felt it at some point. It's that low-grade, constant hum of unease,
Hmm.
that feeling that something is just perpetually off. It's not a fever, right? It's not clinical anxiety, but it's this vague discomfort, maybe a tightness in your chest or just being tired all the time. A general disorder that just seems to follow you around.
Yeah, a shadow.
Exactly. So today we're diving deep into a really fascinating stack of sources that, well, they challenge everything we think we know about this kind of suffering.
They really do.
Our mission here is to look at these symptoms, this disorder, not as the failure of your body or, some kind of weakness, but as a profound and maybe even necessary message from your inner self.
And that reframing it's absolutely key. The central insight our sources get at is what happens the moment your conscious mind, the logical part of you trying to name the problem, when it just fails.
When it runs out of answers.
Exactly. When the mind goes silent, the body starts speaking. This so-called general disorder is, in fact, the voice of your deepest self. It's signaling a radical disconnect.
A disconnect between what?
Between your inner world and your outer world. The way you present yourself and the way you actually feel. They're just fundamentally out of alignment.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If we accept this idea, and it's a big one, that a chronic symptom, whether it's a nagging headache or just restlessness, is actually a profound biological language.
Yeah.
What is it trying to say? I mean, what's the core message?
Well, the sources say we have to begin with the idea of stability.
Stability.
They direct us back over a century ago to the physiologist Claude Bernard. He gave us the foundational concept for all of this when he said, the stability of the internal environment is the condition of free life.
The condition of free life.
Yeah.
Wow.
It means that true freedom, true vitality, it all depends on the consistent internal stability of your body's systems.
And that makes beautiful sense, conceptually. I mean, if your internal house is in order, your energy is free to engage with the world, to create, to just live fully.
Right. But our sources suggest that for modern humans, that internal stability has been, well, it's been shattered. And here's the crucial point. It's not primarily because of, external threats or not having good doctors. No, it's due to a deep internal schism. The sources put it very plainly. The mind and the body are no longer unified. We're living these compartmentalized lives where the mind dictates one reality.
A reality of performance, strength, productivity.
Exactly. All the things we think we should be doing. Meanwhile, the biological self is just screaming the truth in the background.
So the body basically becomes a whistleblower. Walk us through that. Why do we experience this pervasive, vague unease? If the mind is doing all the demanding, why does the body take the hit?
Think of the body as a perfect mirror. It just reflects the state of your inner world. So when the inside, your spirit, your true emotional self is chronically unbalanced,
The outside has to react.
it has to. The outside, your physical body, it has to start vibrating in a sense to force you to pay attention. It starts small. Subtle symptoms, chronic tension, and we just try to ignore them.
Right, we call it just stress.
We call it just stress. But according to this analysis, those persistent low-grade symptoms, that stiffness in your neck, that mild fatigue that never leaves, that low-level anxiety, that's your autonomic nervous system's desperate cry for help. It's just operating in perpetual high alert.
I'm glad you brought it back to the autonomic nervous system because that really grounds it in physiology. We're constantly demanding this physical performance at work, at the gym, socially, all while pretending we're stable.
Pretending, faking strength on the outside. And the body, specifically the nervous system, is just forced into this prolonged state of tension.
And it can only do that for so long.
Exactly. At some point, the signal has to escalate. It has to generate a symptom loud enough that it forces you to stop. It has to compel you to stop ignoring that massive gap between the reality you project and the one you actually feel.
And that's why they feel chronic, because the disconnect is chronic.
The disconnect is sustained, so the symptom is sustained.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. And honestly, it completely flips the script on conventional health wisdom.
It does.
If we accept this premise that disorder is an escalated message, the sources take this massive next step. They suggest disorder is not a fault. It's actually a non-negotiable signal demanding the reestablishment of a new order.
It's not the end of health. It's the disruptive beginning of a necessary change.
That is a profound conceptual leap because we are trained to fight disorder, right? We see it as the enemy, something to be eliminated so we can get back to well, how we were before.
What if how we were before was precisely the problem? What if that's what caused this in the first place?
Right.
To illustrate this, the sources give these incredible, almost counterintuitive examples of how the body uses a breakdown to force a breakthrough.
Let's get into those, because this is where the theory becomes really visceral. Tell us about the surgery example.
Okay, so the sources note observations of people who, after a major surgery, experience this remarkable period of mental clarity. Their emotions feel clean, refreshed during recovery.
Which is the last thing you would expect. Surgery is a major physical trauma.
It's a state of extreme disorder, physically. But in this context, the body has been forced into a complete mandatory reset. It physically cannot maintain that external facade of faking strength.
So it's like a forced vacation for the mind, but it's achieved through physical trauma.
Precisely. The body's entire energy system is taken over by the biological need to heal. And this mandatory focus on the physical frees the mind from its own tyranny. The constant performing, the worrying about what everyone else thinks.
The trauma forces a reset.
It hits the reset button on the entire psychobiological system. And the result is this temporary state of profound internal alignment. A new order established through having to just stop.
That's a powerful argument. But what about the second example, the mathematician and the migraine? That speaks more to a cognitive breakthrough coming from physical pain.
Yes, this one connects the physical disorder directly to how the mind functions. The sources describe a mathematician who was struggling with a complex problem for weeks, just completely stuck, and then has a severe debilitating migraine attack. And immediately after it passes, the solution to the problem just blossoms in his mind.
So how do we interpret that through this lens of reorder?
Well, the extreme symptom, the migraine, isn't just a consequence of pain. It's seen as a neurological system purge.
A purge.
Leading up to it, the brain was probably overloaded, trying to force a solution through a blocked system. The migraine, which is essentially a chaotic neural event, acts as a biological clear-the-slate mechanism. It just throws out the old, tense, locked pattern.
Which then allows the new order, the great idea, the clarity to emerge.
To take root immediately afterward.
Yes, it's like the disorder had to become total before the solution could appear. But I have to ask the critical question here. How do we differentiate between this idea, which you could argue romanticizes suffering, and a genuine, serious biological illness that needs medical intervention?
That is the essential line, and the sources are clear. They are talking about the kind of general disorder that frustrates doctors, the vague unease, the chronic tension. The symptoms a doctor might just call stress because there's no clear physical marker.
Okay. This general disorder is the messenger. It carries the message. Stop. Listen, the body's trying to teach you the lesson of life. When the signal is vague and persistent like that, it's often the clearest voice of your biological wisdom trying to guide you back to who you really are. It's about the pattern.
It's all about the pattern. If you keep ignoring the whisper, the body eventually has to shout.
So if we accept this, that the tightness in our neck, or that low-level anxiety, or just feeling burnt out is an urgent message, what's the practical path forward for the listener? We can't all just wait for a migraine or surgery.
No, of course not.
How do we learn to hear the whisper before it has to become a shout?
The sources provide a clear, actionable path. And it's beautifully simple, but it's also intensely demanding. Instead of resisting the disorder, we have to observe it.
Observe it.
We need to completely shift our energy from fighting the symptom, trying to medicate it, ignore it, mask it, to paying deep, non-judgmental attention to the message it's carrying.
And that non-judgmental piece is key. We're not observing it critically, trying to analyze it or shame ourselves for having it. The sources say to observe it like a friend.
Yes.
To just be fully present with every sensation, every moment of discomfort, without pushing it away. To be fully present in every single breath.
That non-judgmental presence, it validates the symptom. When you stop fighting the disorder and instead you acknowledge it completely. You remove the body's need to escalate the signal.
Because you're finally listening.
The body no longer has to shout for your attention because you're finally listening to the whisper. The result of this radical attention is that the symptom often begins to fade.
It just dissipates.
It dissipates because its mission to get your attention and force you to stop has been accomplished. The mind brightens because that internal conflict is resolved, and the body just begins its natural process of returning to its inherent harmonious rhythm.
This redefines health entirely. Because if we're just focused on the absence of disease, we're really just aiming for a fragile truce. The ultimate definition here seems to be that true health isn't the absence of illness.
No.
It's the active state of harmony between body, mind, and spirit. It's an ongoing, dynamic balance, not just a static condition you achieve.
It's a practice.
This whole deep dive has been a powerful,
Yeah.
almost a revolutionary reminder. That feeling of vague unease we've been conditioned to see as an obstacle, a weakness, an enemy to be conquered, is actually the highest wisdom of your biology calling you home. It's an urgent invitation for your life to just stop, breathe, and return to your authentic state of balance. And that brings us to the final provocative thought for today. The sources summarize this whole perspective by reminding us that disorder is not a bad thing. It is a profound reminder. Stop, breathe, and listen to the life that is unfolding within you. So simple, but so hard to do. It is. So if that feeling of disorder is the most urgent, most compelling way your deepest biological wisdom can get your attention, consider this. What signal are you currently ignoring in your own life? And how might choosing to listen to that signal today, rather than just pushing through the tension, fundamentally change your trajectory and establish the new order that your life is truly waiting for?